Welcome back, everybody. I'm particularly excited about this session. We've gone around the region and spoken about a couple of countries, and now we have a focus on Saudi Arabia in the tourism sector, and specifically, we're going to be talking about the Diriyah Gate Project. And we're delighted to welcome Frank Kane, who is Senior Business Editor and Anchor of Frankly Speaking of Arab News. And our distinguished speaker and being interviewed is Jerry Inzerillo, CEO of the Diriyah Gate Development Authority. You're welcome, gentlemen. We're delighted to have you, and please do take it away.
Thanks, Ed. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever time zone you may be. Jerry Inzerillo, Chief Executive Officer of the Diriyah Gate Development Authority, one of the most important of the mega projects in Saudi Arabia, which is a country full of mega projects under the Vision 2030 strategy to transform society and economy. Welcome, Jerry. It's great to see you again.
Always great to see you, Frank. It's delighted to be with you, and greetings to all our friends in the United Kingdom and around the world.
Thanks. Now, Jerry, when we last spoke, I left the TV studio wildly enthusiastic about Diriyah. You made some incredible comparisons: the Colosseum in Rome, the Acropolis in Athens, the pyramids in Egypt. Share some of that exuberance with our audience today, would you? What's it all about?
Well, thank you. And thank you for those most kind words. And in the context of this conversation, I'd be remiss if I didn't include Big Ben, Buckingham Palace, and the famous Tower of London. But Diriyah, pronounced like a ray of sunshine, Diriyah, located in the capital of Riyadh, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is actually the ancestral birthplace of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the birthplace of the Arabian Peninsula, and the ancestral home of the House of Al Saud, one family who in continuity has been running the kingdom and providing vision and unity for over 130 years. So with that birthplace, thanks to the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman, when he was governor, started a restoration on the birthplace in this fabulous mud city made from the Wadi Hanifa, the most fertile oasis in the region. And it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2010. But in the bigger vision of 2030, it's now considered a giga project to make it the largest cultural heritage city in the world, and to expose the world and the Saudis to the ancestral birthplace of the kingdom and the region. And that's why the comparisons to the Acropolis, to the Greeks or the Romans is very suitable, because it's the birthplace of the Arabian Peninsula.
Very good. Jerry, the government of Saudi Arabia recently reinforced its commitment to Diriyah, didn't it? With a huge increase in budget, scope, scale. Some skeptics, let me put it that way, have talked about a slowing down in the big mega projects program under Vision 2030, but this seems to suggest otherwise, doesn't it? How have the mega projects got through the pandemic slowdown?
Yeah, we were a little bit more fortunate than many of the other countries around the world for two principal reasons. And that is because of the vision of the king and our very dynamic crown prince. They knew empathetically, compassionately, and scientifically that sooner or later there would be a remedy or a protocol for the COVID. So instead of slowing down the giga projects to open up tourism to the kingdom, which we did in September of 2019 to great accord, from a period of September of 2019, only introducing tourism to 49 countries plus Macau and Hong Kong, from a period of September 19 to when we had to protect the society and all travelers to put COVID protocols in, in March of 20, we were doing 55,000 tourist visas a week. Now, what's important is the fact that the Crown Prince knew that there would be a protocol. So he said, we're not going to slow down anything. And none of the resources were taken away from the development of the national tourism strategy, the national culture and heritage strategy, fabulous Ministry of Tourism with His Excellency Ahmed Al Khatib, fabulous Ministry of Culture under His Highness Prince Badr. So no funding was taken away from those two ministries, nor the Giga projects. And we were instructed, because the Crown Prince is very strict, you will stay on time because we will come out of this COVID, but we can't lose the time. Now, the other thing that was significant is because the national tourism strategy was only in its infancy, 3% of GDP, which is low by G20 standards, going up to 10%. We didn't have a long way to go down like France or Spain or even the United Kingdom or the United States. And because of nationalism, with the Saudis having one of the highest per capita spends on tourism in the world, they spent all that tourism money in the kingdom. So not only did we not suffer, we actually did better during the COVID in terms of our own domestic visitations and our receipts from tourism. So we weathered the first part of the COVID very well, while taking care of the society, while getting everybody tested, while paying for everybody's, vaccinations. So relatively speaking, we're doing quite well.
Some of the audience, Jerry, might be unfamiliar with the concept of tourism in Saudi Arabia, a British audience in particular, I would think. Tell them what they might find in the kingdom and in particular in Al Diriyah. You have mentioned the old historic sites and locations. What else will they find in Al Diriyah, and what will they find in the rest of the kingdom?
Yeah, when you look at tourism into the region, you have to give a lot of credit to our brothers and sisters in the United Arab Emirates. But if you look at two particular cities over the last 30 years, the other Emirates really all coming on now. But if you look at Dubai and you look at Abu Dhabi, they've done really a magnificent job in drawing tourism. But it's not a full country that has the personality and the geographical and the topography differences than Saudi Arabia has. I mean, Saudi Arabia has 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So when you see Petra and you think about what that means to the wonderful people of Jordan, well, the tribe that cut Petra, the Nabateans, when they prospered, they went south to Al Ula. And Al Ula is one of the most beautiful valleys in the world in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Diriyah, the birthplace in the principal city, the largest palm groves in the world in Al Asa, beautiful, mountainous, almost Swiss Alps of Saudi Arabia, you would never think, in Al Suda. So, and you control 45% of the Red Sea with archipelagos that are as beautiful as the Seychelles and the Maldives. But because we weren't open to tourism, a lot of people don't know it. A lot of people were stuck in old stereotypes that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is really just deserts and camels. No, a lot of people don't know what snows in Saudi Arabia. So up in Tabuk, you've got that topography. So what will happen is that Gulf tourism, people will now come to the Gulf for 4, 7, 10 days, because now they can go, where did the Gulf start? Where did the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia start? What is authentic culture and history of Diriyah is over 300 years old. Saudi has its own food in many different regions, like a France, like in America, its own costuming, its own dancing, its own music. So there's so much to see here. And very thankfully, after the very successful leadership of Saudi Arabia's G20 presidency, the Crown Prince went on TV recently to say that he was putting the resources together to configure Riyadh to be one of the 10 great metropolises in the world by 2030 and to take its population from 7 to 15 million people. this is going to be great because Diriyah, the largest cultural heritage city, built in the Najda mud typology, will be the centerpiece of that great metropolis in just a few years to come. So there's a lot of reasons to come visit.
Okay, so people can look forward to a wealth of historical landscape splendor, but what can they do as regards rest and relaxation? Saudi Arabia has the image of being a very conservative country, but this is one of the aspects under Vision 2030, which is being changed and transformed, isn't it? How far along the path are they to reducing that conservatism?
Yes, very quickly. I mean, if you look at just the time that the custodian of the two holy mosques has been king, if you look at that 6-year period and you look at particularly the last 4 years, what's happened with the dynamic leadership of the Crown Prince in particular, the kingdom is very rapidly returning to its moderate status that it had pre-1979. There's also something else that's extremely important, and that is that 70% of the Saudi population is under 35 years old. And a great portion of that, by the millions, over the last 20, 30 years have been educated abroad. So all of these young Saudis are coming home very fired up, very positive, very optimistic. And because many of them have been trained in the finest universities all over the world, they're sophisticated. So now that everybody's driving in theaters, you know, like if you look at the United Arab Emirates, you look at the vibrant scene of some of the great cities, London, Paris, and you think about how people interact in restaurants. You have that vitality in Saudi Arabia now, music and people and boys and girls and families enjoying themselves. So we've relaxed a lot of the apparel restrictions that we're in. Now, a lot of people come and love the fashion sense of what it is, but non-Muslim women don't have to wear abayas or headscarves. There's a lot of moderations, but it's going very quickly. And people are astonished at the positivity and the vibrancy of the Saudi economy and the Saudi society in only 4 years. And the other thing is that a lot of people are seeing now just how warm and generous the region is, especially the warmth and generosity of the Saudi people. It's a very positive, optimistic time for the kingdom.
Okay, let's move on to investment prospects. Why should global investors, in particular the British, be interested in Diriyah Gate and Saudi Arabia? Trade between the two parts of the world has in the past been dominated by oil, hardware. What new sectors are opening up to them, and what is in Diriyah to attract them?
Yeah, well, you know, the great thing, if one wants to talk specifically about the United Kingdom for a moment, first of all, there's always been historically, since the inception of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, 90 years old, there's always been a historic, super strong relationship, particularly between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United Kingdom. And that robust, very warm relationship exists to this day. Now, the Kingdom of United Kingdom is known for culture, for heritage, one of the most beloved monarchies in the world, like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. His King Salman, with his leadership with COVID, set a whole new level of empathy and compassion in the leadership with the G20 with COVID. But there's so much here. So now with tourism, there's a whole infrastructure, because you're a G20 country that may very well be G10 by the next G20 that's in Saudi Arabia in 2040. So any company, all the big brands, all the anything to do with tourism, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, cruise ship, car rental, tour operators, when you come in where there was nothing, and now all of a sudden it comes full bloom. The opportunities here are probably per country grander and bigger from a commercial return on investment point of view than probably anywhere else in the world, especially the tourism countries that have a saturation where they're 100 years old, 200 years old. How much can the cities absorb with new hotels, new restaurants, new retail, new cruising? Here, it's abundant. So to get in on a new industry, one of the largest industries in the world, almost 11% of global GDP, one of the largest employees in the world pre-COVID, this is a very exciting commercial opportunity. And that will lend other opportunities for agriculture, for diversified energy, for transportation, for technology that follows that industry. So all industries now are in a very growth rate because the kingdom is opening up to diversify its economy off of just energy. Okay.
Jerry, I have a couple of quite interesting questions. Can I put one to you from the audience?
I would be honored.
One is from Adel Hamazia, who is from an organization called OXGAPS. And Adel asks, could Jerry comment on the value proposition for tourism in Saudi Arabia from the perspective of cost? How competitive can Saudi Arabia be on this score? Please consider Egypt and Jordan as competitors in the answer. So let's hear you sell it against Egypt and Jordan.
Oh, it's very easy. I don't have to sell against them. I would sell with them. So first of all, Adil, thank you and congratulations for your work with OXGAPS. But let me hit that head on. We believe that Saudi Arabia, a very, very large country with vast geographical differences, with vast offerings. Now, because it's climbing into global tourism, it will be affordable in every sector. And the topography here is brilliant. So if you're a hiker and you want to go to the equivalent of a Grand Canyon, or you want the outdoor topography like in Australia has, or Switzerland or America, you have that here. If you want the beautiful water, the crystal blue waters, you have that here. So the tourism proposition is 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. Outdoor excitement, recreational, water, sea and sand, culture and heritage, all segments open up and all are affordable. So the value proposition for Saudi tourism is robust. But here's the beautiful thing about Egypt. Egypt is one of the finest tourism countries in the world. And the Egyptians are warm, wonderful people like the Jordanians. You don't have to reinvent the pyramids. They are the pyramids. You do not have to reinvent Petra. It is a global icon. So now, with Saudi Arabia coming in with such a big, beautiful country, it will create a new trend in the next 5 to 10 years that will widen the length of stay in the region. So instead of going to Egypt for 3 or 4 days and seeing Alexandria and Luxor and Cairo and the pyramids, instead of going to Amman and just Petra, now people will come to the region for 10 days. They'll go, what can I see in Kuwait? What can I see in Lebanon? What can I see in Jordan? What can I see in Egypt? And then they're going to say, where did it begin? It began in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So I think the value proposition on all segmentations in Saudi is robust, but I think it's a very exciting time. And to praise His Excellency Ahmed Al-Khatib, he sees Saudi tourism in a regional context. So he's already very close with all the other ministers of tourism, and they've all been here. One final point. For the first time in the history of the United Nations, the UNWTO, the first regional office opened anywhere in the world just opened, thanks to the leadership of His Excellency Al-Khatib in Riyadh. And that will benefit Gulf tourism, which will benefit all the neighboring countries.
Right. One other interesting one. I know we're getting towards the end, but let's try this. This is from Andrew Foxall, who is Principal International Account Manager at NATS Limited, who is obviously sold on the idea of Saudi Arabia, but is wondering how he's going to get around the kingdom. He asks, what additional transport infrastructure is being planned for this influx of new tourism?
Yes, I thank you, Andrew, for that. And congratulations and thank you for the great work you're doing at NAC Limited. Part of the Crown Prince's vision is you cannot have a robust tourism national strategy in a very large country unless you have all the interconnectivity of airports, road systems, and distribution of people if you're going to have 100 million people come. Now, the kingdom is very blessed because the kingdom is the custodian of the two holy mosques. Well, thanks to the generosity of the king, pre-COVID, we welcomed 16 million pilgrimages to the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. We have plans now to welcome 30 million pilgrimages by 2030. But with our unbelievable Ministry of Transportation under His Excellency Salih Al-Jasser, all of the airports, all of the road systems, all of the infrastructure is being put in. And we've set up two major divisions of the Ministry of Tourism on investment into the tourism infrastructure to seed micro investors, to support those entrepreneurial businesses, especially Saudi businesses. But there's a whole wing of the Ministry of Tourism that's addressing infrastructure, and that's on a very fast pace. And that committee meets with the Crown Prince himself monthly. So we're hyper accelerating all of the tourism infrastructure. So we give a very qualitative experience so people can get around and enjoy all the different personalities around the region in this very large, very beautiful, very diversified, very personality-driven kingdom.
Jerry, Martin Hall, who is Business Development Manager at ES Global, has a very specific question about Diriyah Gate. He asks, will there be an ongoing interest in temporary infrastructure at DGDA, Diriyah Gate, while permanent venues, theatres, attractions, hotels, etc., are being developed?
Martin, thank you very much for that. And thank you for your great work at ES Global. The answer is absolutely. When you're building a $40 billion cultural heritage city on 10 kilometers in central Riyadh, the infrastructure and logistical components are highly complex. Now, we're very lucky because when everybody comes to visit and all are welcomed, we welcome everybody to come and you're going to have a big time. But where Diriyah sits in the Wadi Hanifa, it's on a rock plateaued shelf that's 50 meters above the wadi. So where Diriyah is, it's actually 5 or 6 degrees cooler in the summer, a little warmer in the winter, but it's beautiful. Now, in order to build the infrastructure on smart technology, sustainable technology, and the Crown Prince is strict on environmental protection and sustainability, and he's very tech-minded. So all smart technology, power, sewage, water, security, infrastructure, parking. We're building 40,000 parking spots underground so we can protect the authenticity of the mud Najda architecture. When you dig through rock, and you know this, 8 million cubic meters of soil, that's 900,000 dump trucks of rock. So yes, over the next 2 to 3 or 4 years, we're deploying billions. As a matter of fact, just in March, we signed 3 billion SAR of infrastructure, temporary infrastructure work. And in April, we signed another 3 billion SAR in infrastructural contracts going forward. So it's a very astute question. And this is not just happening in Diriyah. It's happening in all the giga projects, and it's happening infrastructurally throughout the entire kingdom, so the kingdom can get ready for its very bright future.
Jerry, lots of people are asking questions, and I'm being told that we can carry on a little bit longer to satisfy these people, if that's okay with you.
It's very thoughtful of everybody. We're grateful.
Great. Mohammed Kawar, Trade and Investment Advisor from the Department for International Trade, I guess that's the UK, who is asking about how Diriyah Gate will meet its energy requirements and what would be the focused energy resources.
Yes, thank you, Mohammed, for that great question, and thank you for your work in the international division, the international trade division. The Crown Prince is very, very specific on his leadership when it comes to all forms of energy. Now, we're very blessed because with the leadership of His Excellency Yasser Al-Rumayyan, who's the chairman of Aramco, most profitable company, the biggest company in the world, but they're not focused just on fossil fuel. The Crown Prince, in the leadership of Vision 2030, going forward 10 years, wants the kingdom to be the leader in solar power, wind power, all different forms of energy requirements. So trillions of dollars are going into energy, but all forms of energy. That's why the Crown Prince 3 years ago said, on the streets of Diriyah, we're going to run the Formula E race, the electric car race, because we want to start changing the image of the kingdom, that it's about energy and technology, not just about oil and gas. So that's a big focus of Aramco, unbelievable company, one of the best in the world. It's a big focus of His Excellency Al-Rumayyan in his brilliant leadership of Aramco. And he's also governor of the largest fund in the world, which is the Public Investment Fund, that's investing in robotics, artificial intelligence, alternative energy. Now, as a result of that leadership of Aramco, PIF, the Crown Prince, the Giga projects benefit from that because we pick up all the technology that they're in the forefront of developing. And we are installing all of that technology. But in a culture heritage city, we're building a whole city underneath the city. That way, when people come to visit Diriyah on the surface without traffic, because cars are not allowed on, it's meant to be pedestrian, like Marrakesh and Fez and Siena, right? All the smart technology will be underground, and all the rich culture heritage of this beautiful mud adobe city will be above ground. So we study this every day, and thank goodness we get the benefit of our global leadership position in energy. And a lot of praise also goes to His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz, who's our very distinguished Minister of Energy.
Jerry, there's one question here, which it's not necessarily your area to answer, but I will pose it anyway, because I think that the audience would like the view of an expert in the kingdom on it. It comes from Alicia Buller, who's the UK editor of Arabian Business, a news organization. And she asked very simply, will alcohol ever be allowed in Diriyah Gate?
Yeah, it's a great question, Alicia, and thank you for your coverage with Arabian Business. When we thought about opening up the kingdom first to tourism before September of 2019, we did very sophisticated focus groups. And in the focus groups, that question came up. And that question came up, and not only that, the question of apparel, the question of, are we allowed to stay in the same room? Questions of social mores and interaction, boys and girls, and can music be played? A lot of those questions came up, very legitimate questions. But here's what happened when we did the post interviews, when people left the kingdom. The subject of alcohol wasn't even in the top 5 because everybody had such a great time experientially when they came here. They were greeted by warm, generous people. They had amazing experiences outdoors, seeing. I had no idea. They had so much fun that after 1 or 2 days, enjoying all the Saudi food, enjoying the Saudi hospitality, enjoying all the fun things that they had to do, it wasn't even in our top 5. So we're concentrating now on our tourism strategy on what people really want. Experiences. How did the kingdom start? Where did it start? Interaction with the local, with the Saudi society. So it's a great question, but one that turned out in reality not to be that important.
Jerry Inzerillo, what you don't know about global tourism isn't worth knowing. That's what the conclusion that I've come to after speaking to you a few times. So look, your insights are valuable. Your opinions are very interesting, and your enthusiasm is infectious, I have to say. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak to you here today at the GCC UK Trade Forum. And I wish you all the best, and I wish the audience a successful rest of the forum. Thank you very much.
Come visit us, and as we say in Saudi, only one Diriyah. Come visit us. Everybody's welcome. Only one Diriyah. Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Jerry.